Alright, and we are rolling. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your buddy Jake Dominguez, of course, back with another movie review. Now, today is May the 4th, Star Wars Day, so happy Star Wars Day to all of you. May the 4th be with you. I am not reviewing a Star Wars movie today because I should have, because that would make sense, but no, I saw a movie called Bad Samaritan today, and I am here to do a movie review of it. So that is what we're going to do today, but really quickly, happy Star Wars Day. I may have dressed a little bit for this day, but hey, that's okay. I only get one Star Wars Day a year. It's only recently we got Star Wars movies coming out, so I gotta celebrate when I can. But anyway, today we're going to do a movie review of Bad Samaritan. Now, many of you are probably, just like me until recently, saying, what the heck is Bad Samaritan? I've never heard of that. Maybe not, but yeah, this is a movie that I honestly didn't know existed until like a week ago. I saw that this movie was playing at one of my local movie theaters, and you know, last week we had Avengers Infinity War come out. It's the biggest movie of the year, most anticipated movie of the year. So for the next few weeks around this time, there's not going to be a lot of movies coming out. But I was really surprised when I saw this Bad Samaritan movie. I was like, oh, okay, I've never even heard about that. So I looked it up, and Devlin directed this film and produced it. He's most well known for being the producer of a lot of Roland Emmerich's movies like Independence Day and Day After Tomorrow and a few others. That's what he's most well known for. I think Cellular, I think that's what it was called, that had Chris Evans in it. He produced that movie. He's a big Hollywood producer. Last year he directed Geostorm, which I never saw. And this one, to my knowledge, Geostorm was his director's debut. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but yeah, so this guy's more well known as producer, and that's pretty much all I knew going into this movie. I didn't even see a full trailer going to see this movie, which I kind of like. I think it's important, if you love movies, to support smaller movies and that sort of thing. Not that this is just a small film or anything. I'm not quite sure if it's independent or the whole history behind that. But when everyone's going to see the huge blockbusters like the Avengers movies or stuff like that, or even a Star Wars movie, I bought my ticket for Solo last night, I'd still like to support small films. Because let's face it, most people this weekend are still going to see Avengers rather than this movie, Bad Samaritan, you know what I mean? And I want to support the filmmakers, even if I don't love the movie overall, I think it's still important to support that, you know what I mean? And let's face it, it's fun to go see a movie not knowing anything. In today's age where we know almost everything because all the trailers and the TV spots are playing all the time, blah, 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 I like going in, maybe not knowing what I'm going to get. Sometimes that works really well for me. You get a nice surprise. Other times you get a movie like The Hurricane Heist, which is very similar, which I reviewed a little while ago, which I did not like at all. And sometimes you're just kind of in the middle of an okay movie. Bad Samaritan is kind of just an okay movie. I wanted to go see this movie by myself. There was one other guy in the theater with me. And this movie's okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about the plot. So Bad Samaritan tells the story of a guy who's like a thief. He basically works with his friend to go rob other houses and stuff like that. One night, he goes to rob this house, and he really scores. He steals his credit card and all sorts of things. But he discovers a woman who is held captive in this house by this evil guy who he's robbing. And he picked the wrong house to rob, you know what I mean? And this freaks him out, and he leaves her out of, like, fear and that sort of thing. And this causes a huge set of misadventures for him, in which he feels so guilty about what he did, and he does his best to save this woman from this evil, crazy guy who he made the terrible mistake of trying to rob. And lots of things happen from there. Like I said, I already did let you guys know, this movie's just okay. I didn't hate this movie. I definitely don't love it. I think it's kind of a mediocre film. Having said that, there is enjoyment to be had here. I was mostly pretty entertained with it, and I gotta say, Devlin does have some chops when it comes to being a director. In fact, watching this movie made me a little more curious to check out Geostorm. That movie was did not get great reviews or anything at all. It looked, silly disaster movie. But it did make me a bit more curious to see it, because I gotta say, Devlin does have some chops. This is a pretty well-directed movie. When it's just being a B-movie thriller, it does a pretty good job of being a B-movie thriller. It also has a couple good performances in it. David Tennant, I don't know how to pronounce his name, something like that, plays the villain in this movie. He plays like the big baddie who this guy made the terrible mistake of robbing. And he does a really good job. You can tell he's really hamming it up and having fun playing the big evil guy, and he's really good. He's really scary and really creepy in this movie. I don't remember the name of our main character. It's down in the description below, but man, he's really good as well. I think he was in Geostorm as well, actually. I could be wrong, but I think he was in that. Very talented actor, and I really like that main character's dilemma in this movie. He's not a great guy. He's not the big heroic hero. He's kind of a screw-up. He's a thief, for goodness sakes. But he kind of learns he has to pay for the mistakes he's done, including the mistake of not immediately saving this woman right when he was robbing the house, and that sort of thing. And his whole life gets screwed up. Because of his mistakes, others have to pay the consequences for him, especially himself. And I liked that. I liked that character dynamic. I thought that was pretty cool. I kind of like the cat and mouse game between him and this really evil guy that David Tennant, or whatever his name is playing. Tennant. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names, aren't I? And yeah, that's the best part of this movie. Like I said, it's pretty well directed in terms of how it's shot. There are some good scenes that are very intense, that play good as a thriller. But this movie has a lot of problems. It's unfortunately very predictable. If you've seen movies like this, like say Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock or Disturbia, which is basically just a remake of Rear Window, so that's not a good example, but you know what I mean. If you've seen movies like this where somebody's trying to say that this bad guy really is a bad guy and no one else believes him, and I don't know, stuff like that, you've kind of seen this movie. There's so many times in this movie where I knew what was going to happen, where I predicted the scene right before it was about to happen. And I was like, oh, really? We're doing this? Like, there's so many just things like that in this movie that are just kind of cliched. And unfortunately, there's also some things that when you really stop and think about, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, not even make sense. It's just dumb. There's dumb movie stuff in this movie that's like, why would a character really do that? I mean, why would he know about that? It's just stuff like that. Like, I don't want to get into spoilers, but there's unfortunately some stuff like that in this movie. It also really dragged for me in the second half of it because, again, once the setup happens and all that, like the first hour of this movie, I was pretty on board. But after a while, once it starts to get more predictable and stuff like that, I really began to just kind of lose interest. And it's like, okay, come on, you guys can do better than this. I mean, there's clearly really talented people working on this. But after a while, the predictability of the movie really killed it for me. And it just started to drag after a while. Which was too bad, because this movie's fine. It's entertaining. As a thriller, it works pretty good. There's some good thrilling moments. There are a couple cheap scares in there. But overall, there's good stuff in this movie. I like the main character. I like the journey he goes on. Other performances are fine. You know, there's some good thrilling sequences, but as a whole, it doesn't really work together. It's ultimately a mediocre film that runs a little too long. It's not a long movie. It's less than 2 hours long, but it really dragged for me in the middle. So this movie's kind of a mixed bag overall. This is a fine movie if you need something to rent or if it's on TV. I wouldn't necessarily recommend rushing out in the theater to see it, even though despite my huge spiel at the beginning, I think it's important to support movies that aren't getting all the advertising, that are kind of smaller than the big films. Unfortunately, despite that huge spiel I did, this movie just isn't good enough to rush out and see. Even though it's fine. If you want a good, disposable kind of thriller, this one will be fine for you. You'll probably enjoy it okay. But it's very flawed, and I want it to be a little better, because there are some really good stuff in this movie. So I'm going to give Bad Samaritan a C+. I think it's okay. It's got a couple really good performances, but I wanted it to be better. I am interested to see what Dean Devlin does next, or I'm kind of curious to check out Geostorm, which is a movie that I didn't have a lot of interest in until now, because he definitely has some chops. But overall, this movie's just okay. Well, guys, those are my thoughts on Bad Samaritan. I'm still not sure if that title is really clever or really dumb. I'm kind of mixed on it, but oh well. Those are my thoughts. If you've seen this movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you even heard about this movie? Like, I'm curious, because I've never even heard about it, which kind of makes me sad for these filmmakers, you know what I mean? But you gotta do what you gotta do. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. It means the world for me. If you like this video, please consider liking it, leaving a comment, and maybe even subscribing to my channel. It really does help me out. Thank you so much for watching. And never forget, most importantly of all, I'm your friend and I'm always going to be there for you. Thank you so much for being my friends. You guys are the best. Happy Star Wars Day, and I will see you next time.